Well, guys, hi, good afternoon, and welcome to number 4 in the podcast series. As promised, we've got another special guest with us this week. Although I have to say, after last weekend, Paul and I very nearly cancelled him, to be completely honest. We're not sure, even via Zoom, whether we contain the smugness. So this week we've got Colin Gregor with us. Colin is the ex-Rugby Sevens captain for Scotland and a former Glasgow player. And for the first time in 34 years, I believe, he's actually smiling. So we're going to allow him to talk about the Scotland-England game for approximately 15 seconds, and then I think that's done. But Colin is another friend of Sandstone. We've known Colin quite a long time now. We've done loads of work together and a few challenges, and we'll tell some stories a little bit later on. But Colin, welcome. Really nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. Yes, delighted you've chosen this week of all weeks to have me on the podcast. So if I start every comment I make with 11-6 or Scotland won at Twickenham or something like that, please forgive me that, as Tim said, it's been a long time coming.
Thanks, Cole. So, interestingly enough, guys, Colin does does some speaking and work for us. And he normally talks around high performance teams. And interestingly enough, but I guess being a Scottish rugby player, I suppose it's his area of expertise. But he usually talks about bouncing back from failure and how you pick yourself back up again and continuing to push forward after you've made mistakes. And as I said, being a Scottish international, that's something that he's actually that he's really good at.
Plenty of experience in it, yes. So Eddie Jones actually phoned me this week to see pick my brains because he's obviously got that situation now with his England team after. Did you hear Scotland beat England last week at Twickenham? Yeah.
People have often said to me, Colin, because as you know, you and I don't live that far away from each other, and we've been doing loads of talk for schools and stuff recently. And a few of the people have said to me, have you felt isolated, Tim? Do you feel isolated? And I said, not till last Saturday when I felt really isolated. Yeah,
Englishman in Scotland. Ouch.
It's just typical that Scotland wait until pubs are closed. You can only watch it with those that you live with. There's no one in the stadium for them to. Yeah, so I think we'll celebrate until we can actually celebrate with friends and family in a kind of party atmosphere. So yeah, we won't worry about the rest of the Six Nations. The main events happened. The big game has been won. So 2021's already a whole lot better than 2020 was.
Well, I think, Colin, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you and I spend quite a lot of time sort of talking to companies about, in order to get the best performance out of somebody, actually you need to relieve pressure, not add pressure, in terms to get the best performance out of somebody. And it would appear that if you want to get the best performance out of the Scottish rugby team, then what you need to do is remove the crowd, the audience and the pressure, and the magic happens. So it would appear as though we were right.
Well, yeah, and obviously you get up against a rubbish English team as well. So, in fairness, the way that Scotland approached the game, and there was a lot of kind of positivity in the conversations or the media that they'd done before the game. And was it a case of, we've heard this before, but we're still going to come unstuck when it comes to the bit? But actually, they backed it up with their actions and should have won by more, but the fact that they only were 6 points ahead in the last 5-10 minutes, it meant England could have come back into it, one score, and they would have won the game. But I think, the way that Scotland as a team performed, I think, was the really impressive thing as well. It wasn't about the individuals, it was about the collective 15 on the pitch.
Yeah, and I found really interesting. I'm certainly not qualified to talk about rugby. I mean, Paul and I were laughing the other day about our rugby days, which got about as far as school, frankly. Maybe some regimental games in the army. But actually, we do talk about leadership quite a lot. And for me, one of the things I found really interesting, and I'm certainly not going to comment on performance of rugby players, but one of the things I thought was really, really interesting was the way Stuart Hogg, isn't it, the Scottish captain stepped up. I just thought, for me, it was fantastic, actually, because, Finn Russell got sin binned. It was a crucial moment in the game. Pressure came on. It had been really easy to kind of lose the cool. And for me, even as an England fan, to watch Hoggy step up and lead his team and keep it all together and focused, just as an outsider looking in from a leadership perspective, I just thought that was really quite inspiring to watch, actually.
Yeah, and I think that Hoggy is benefiting from just being time on task as captain. That Tim, you and I have talked a lot about the leadership books and the theory of leadership and everything, but I think the way that Hoggy's developing as a captain shows that there's no substitute for just actually getting out there and leading. And what you see with him now as well is that he's not trying to be a Martin Johnson type leader. He's not trying to be someone else as a captain. He's actually, it's that kind of authentic leadership, I suppose, isn't it? That he's worked out that the best way that he can lead is about how he performs, and he sets that bar really high for Scots to get to, and so that's the standard that Scotland need to play at. And yeah, when there's a bit of pressure on him, he's actually saying, well, it's okay, give me the ball, I'll just do the simple things really well. I won't get the ball and think I need to score a try now, which maybe in the past he would have done. It's about Hoggy just being that genuine leader, that true to himself, and for him the best way to show that is just to lead by example. He doesn't need to rally the troops with his kind of big chats and spiels. He is arguably the best player in that Scotland team, and so it's about him just setting those standards and saying, this is what we need to do, not thinking every time he gets the ball, oh, I need to score a try, I'm the captain, I need to do something special. It's actually appreciating that you just do the basics very, very well, and at international rugby that's so important. And it's great to see him develop as a leader, and this Scotland team hopefully develop from that victory at the weekend.
Yeah, there's an important point there, actually, Colin, that as a leader, it's about the team. It's not about you being awesome. It's not about you winning all the points. When you're a leader, certainly in professional life, as vets and doctors and lawyers and accountants and stuff, when we get promoted, we sometimes feel that we still have to, be the best lawyer, be the best vet, be the best doctor in the room. But actually, our job now is to be the best leader, and that sometimes is very different to being the best professional football player, rugby player, or whatever. And it's more about making sure the team wins rather than making sure I win. And it's an interesting mindset. I don't know what you think on that.
Yeah, and I think that's where players, when they've been in the team and they've been one of the best players, suddenly it's like, okay, well, now you're the captain. It's like, okay, well, I need to just be, like do everything that I can, sort of thing, rather than actually what you need to do is set the standards and inspire. I think for someone like Hoggy, it is just lead by example. And yeah, so it's not about being something you're not. It's not about just being you as an individual thinking, well, if I score a couple of tries, that's a good game for me, or if concentrate on them. It's actually, well, now it's all about the team. And what I think you see in professional sport more and more now are leadership teams. And so, yes, you have a captain, and ultimately he has to make the decisions, but he has help from other people. And you see, from a Scottish rugby point of view, you're kind of Finn Russell, Johnny Gray, people like that will chat with Stuart Hogg when there's decisions to be made, just to make sure, are you considering this? Are you thinking about this? You're not too caught up in the emotion of it all. Actually, it's still about winning this game. So let's make sure that is what we're concentrating on.
Colin, yeah, I think that's something that we in business, everyone listening to this who does any form of leadership, that's a great thing to sort of think about and remember, is we can steal these good ideas from professional sports. The best way to learn leadership is to go and just have a go at it. Yeah, there's loads of theory, there's loads of books, there's YouTubes, there's podcasts, there's even spending money on getting Sandstone to come and have a chat with you about it. And that's and that's great to give you a starter, to give you a framework. But really, the only way to learn to get better at leadership is to go and have a go at it, and then be a bit self-reflective. Go, okay, did that work well or did that not work well? How do we get better? It's a bit like golf or football or rugby. At the end of the day, you've got to put your boots on and run out and do it. You can't just learn it all from a whiteboard. The same with leadership. You've just got to go and have a go at it and sit down at the end of the day and go, that was rubbish, I'm not going to do that. Or that was awesome, I'll do more of that.
Yeah, and Paul, I agree with you, because I think also you have to accept the fact that the thing with people is there's no sort of right and wrong answer. There isn't a solution, one shoe fits all. And Colin, the point you made there that I really, really liked as well is the captain's trying to be him. He's not trying to be somebody else, and that's super important. Paul regularly talks about different leadership styles and adapting and changing to what goes on, and it's super important to be the leader you are rather than the leader perhaps somebody else is.
Yeah, so to look at other people, steal their behaviours or their skills, but don't try and steal all of them. Don't try and be Martin Johnson. Don't try and be Boris Johnson. Don't try and be whoever it is that you want to be. To steal the one or two good things that you like about them, their behaviours or their skills, and put them into your words. But there is so many different ways to lead.
Colin's now feigning. Colin knows what's coming next. He's now feigning internet issues. Because I think probably, Paul, you'll agree that the most pressure I've ever seen Colin under was put upon him by one of our co-directors. Actually, as a rule, we're a pretty irreverent lot at Sandstone. And when we first met Colin, we were going out to Switzerland, where our financial director lives, for a bit of a meeting. And we said to Colin, why don't you come out to Switzerland and meet the rest of the team and do the whole bit? And Colin was like, yeah, brilliant. We'll definitely come and do that. So we get out to Switzerland, and Cedric, who's ex CFO Ralph Lauren, amongst other things, and David, one of our other directors, are all there, and we take Colin to this sort of quite an intimate, intense alpine sort of chalet for dinner. And Cedric, obviously being the kind of elder statesman of the team, takes it upon himself to order some red wine, and of course, being in the mountains and we decides that we need a sort of reasonably heavy Malbec to go with such an auspicious occasion as to have a Scottish international rugby player with us. At which point Colin turns around and says, Cedric, would you mind awfully if I had something rosé instead? At which point there was a stunned silence. The restaurant ground to a halt. One of our other co-directors thought he just found the reason as to why Scottish rugby tended not to win games. I can only assume that they no longer drink rosé in the dressing rooms. And I've never seen a brave international rugby player look quite so crestfallen. Paul, have you before?
I love that. We're in a steak restaurant. We're eating steak and cheese, and it's French and Swiss and all this sort of stuff. And I'm there with Colin, who looks a bit of a mountain man. He's a rough, tough international rugby player. But pretty short. It looks like he's a lot further away than he is. but he looks at us and then he's asking for, please, sir, can I have some more rosé? That was just didn't compute.
Yeah, I'm beginning to question why I came on this podcast. But yeah, and beforehand, I thought actually the easy thing is just to go with the flow and just have like a little sip of red wine every now and again. But I thought, no, I'll say, I quite fancy it. Was, well, let's be honest, it was white wine, but we're not going to let that get in the way of a good story. And again, your white wine or rosé in a steak restaurant, you're kind of splitting hairs here, aren't you? So, and yeah, so serves me right for sticking up for myself, trying to be brave, and rather than just go with the flow, I thought, I'll stick my head in the block here, but. So from now on, I'll just drink Malbec.
I think the funniest moment was actually when the waitress came over, and David, one of our co-directors you'll hear from on another podcast, turned around and said to the waitress, "Did you know that this guy here is a famous Scottish rugby player? He's an international rugby player." To which she replied, "Does he ski?" And unfortunately, we had to reply, "Well, not particularly well, no." So that was it. No more interest. So
the Swiss just don't care about rugby, really. So I'm an international rugby player. Yeah.
So it turns out that neither rosé wine nor rugby sevens is massive in Switzerland. But anyway, we'll move on. Fortunately, a lot of our other clients work in the Middle East, and of course, the Dubai sevens is massive, and that's much more your comfort zone, Colin, isn't it?
Yeah, and what a tournament it is over there. Yeah, so it's strange I've not been invited back to Switzerland actually, but I'll not take that personally. Going over to Dubai for the sevens, it's that's a pretty epic weekend. So actually not been back since I've retired to enjoy it from the spectators' point of view, but there's certainly a lot of expats out there. It's a good fun event.
I was talking to one of our clients out there the other day, Colin, actually, and they're pretty keen to get all that sort of back together again. I've sort of half promised that we'll take you over and kind of take you as a renter commentator for the tournament. But in fact, whenever we talk about tournament, it always reminds me, you joke. I know we joke about kind of not fitting in and doing your own thing, actually, but it's quite important that people do have the courage to sort of be themselves. And I think at the moment, people are like a bit discombobulated, with what's going on, and people are finding it quite difficult. And I always remember a conversation that you and I have had before, which is, Colin said something once about, he dropped the ball and kind of nobody knows more than he has that he dropped that ball. And, at the moment, you need to be kind of kind to each other rather than sort of pointing out the mistakes and where people aren't fitting in. And I know, Cole, tell us that story. And it's just quite interesting.
Yeah, well, and I guess it goes back to when, because I was playing rugby with Glasgow Warriors and a little bit of sevens, and then Scottish Rugby decided to put a full-time sevens program in place, and they asked me to basically leave Warriors and just concentrate on the seven-a-side game and lead the team. And so had various discussions. More than happy to do it. Saw it as a real opportunity, and there were various discussions around. Well, there'll be quite a lot of young guys in the squad coming in straight out of school. They need to get an understanding of professional sport, of international rugby. So you need to be hard on them. I think one of the quotes was, "You need to break a few eggs to make an omelette." And that kind of, so to start with, when we were out training and someone dropped a ball, or made a fairly basic error, it's a case of shouting at them and saying, "What's going on? Why are you doing that? You're better than that. That's unacceptable." Thinking that was me driving standards. And after a while, you see these guys and they're becoming kind of more and more timid almost, and it kind of takes a moment of reflection of, hang on, how do I feel if I've made an error and someone points out the obvious to me? And it's a case of, well, yeah, if you drop the ball, you've dropped the ball. You don't need told that's not acceptable. You have standards yourself. Now, if they can give you some technical feedback as to, look, you took your eyes off the ball, that's why you dropped it, then that's good. That you're developing the person. But that whole kind of just shouting at someone for making a basic error, it was like so demotivating compared to the idea of actually how you motivate or how you encourage people.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Paul, we see this, don't we, quite a lot in sort of commercial services firms. We see it quite a lot where, somebody perhaps a bit more junior or slightly less experienced makes a bit of a mistake because they're feeling the pressure of the big deal or the big case or whatever they're working on. And then actually there's a tendency sometimes to kind of highlight that mistake, ignore the 95% that person got right, highlight that mistake. And occasionally we kind of point out to people and say, well, if putting pressure on somebody is what created the mistake in the first place, what reaction do we think we're going to get if we put more pressure on? Well, guess what? They're going to make another mistake because it's the pressure that's causing that mistake. So actually, I don't know what you think, Paul, but for me, and I think, Hoggy probably did that about day to day, it is, what you've got to do is relieve the pressure actually to allow people to be their best selves.
But it is so hard to do. I mean, all I can say is whenever I'm chatting about this with our clients, it's sort of, do as I say, not as I do. And I put my hand up and say, often people come in and tell you they've made a mistake at the worst possible time. You're tired, you've got loads of other things going on, you've got loads of pressure on, you might have deadlines, and now you're going to have to take time out of your day to fix, to do a regain, to make things better. And it's just so easy when that person knocks on your door and goes, "Boss, I've done this." It's just so easy, and I'll see what Colin thinks. It's just on the field of play when you're so passionate about it, but it's just so easy to bite their head off, to just go, "You've done what?" And even though you might have done the training and you've thought about it and you've gone, no, if that really happens in real life, I'll be like, oh well, let's see how we can fix this problem. But it always seems to come at the worst possible moment, and you bite their head off. And all I can say is, do as I say, not as I do. Try not to do that. If you do that, then the best thing to do is actually, as soon as possible, as soon as you realise, go, yeah, my mistake. I'm really sorry. I bit your head off there. I had loads of other things on. Let's discuss how we can fix it. I don't know what you think. It's just, Colin.
I'm really lucky, Paul, because I'm really fortunate, guys, because I get feedback from Paul on an almost daily basis, and I'm still waiting for that moment. At some point, he's going to phone me up and go, "Hey, let's talk about this."
It's the short-term pain, isn't it? It's, oh, fine, just give it to me, I'll do it myself. And so you just add more workload onto your own plate, sort of thing, which actually, when you're on a rugby field, you can't do everything yourself. That you need to have, whether it's 6 or 14 other teammates there to help you out. And so spending that bit of time building them up, building their confidence, developing rapport, developing that trust and that relationship, it takes a bit longer initially, but actually from a team point of view and for your own workload, the longer term gain is what you're after. And the other side of that is that, and it was Sir Alex Ferguson said that the best words you can say to someone are "well done." And
absolutely.
When you think actually, if you've done a piece of work, if you get praise for it, just that little lift you get from it, rather than when you know you've made a mistake and you go in and you're hammered for that error, you're feeling bad anyway, you feel bad again. If you go in and make it, having made a mistake, and say, yeah, you have made a mistake, we can work on that, but look at all this good work you've done alongside it. It's just that whole different mindset. And whether just now with the whole remote working, the kind of the stress on people's mental well-being anyway, it's arguably more important just now.
I'm really looking forward to that phone call, Cole. To be honest, it's gonna.
As soon as you do some good work, I will be on the phone.
I think we'll be well out of lockdown by then, won't we?
It's really true, actually. There's another friend of ours, a lady called Kath Bishop, and she's an ex-Olympic rower and an ambassador and all sorts. But she's just written a book, which I highly recommend, called The Long Win. And even though she's an Olympic medalist, she talks about kind of redefining what winning looks like and actually improving your performance, focusing on what you're actually doing rather than get everything hung up on kind of, in her case, the gold medal or the scoreline, but actually understand what it is you're trying to achieve and why, and kind of working through that to increase your performance. So you get this kind of nature nurture coaching thing going on, which I find that quite interesting. And I think that's pretty much what you're saying, Colin. It's kind of like internal development thing all the time.
Yeah, and I guess there's more sport. There are more examples of it, but it's that kind of develop the individual. So work on actually developing Tim as a person rather than developing Tim as a rugby player or developing Tim as an accountant or a lawyer. If you develop Tim as a person, then actually that's going to be of more benefit to the organisation. He's going to feel the kind of reward. He's going to feel invested in, be kind of enthused by that. But actually, he's going to be able to offer a whole lot more to the company, to the team, to the organisation, whatever it is.
I was laughing, Cole, because as you say that, there's a whole load of our clients shuddering at the thought of developing Tim as either an accountant or a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I said developing Tim, I was like, "Oh, that's the wrong person." And then I thought, then accountant or lawyer, that's the wrong professions as well. Yeah.
I'm fundamentally unemployable, but luckily it's not really a problem. So guys, listen, it's been really cool to have Colin along for the day. I think for me, certainly, I always really enjoy talking to Colin. It's to meet somebody that's kind of played a fast game under that level of pressure, and to see that kind of, from my view, quite refreshing approach to coaching, mentoring, and again coming from what appears to be a pretty kind of stoic, hard background to actually creating something kind of more effective. For me, there's some really good lessons in that. So, Cole, despite the banter at the start, I am actually going to be supporting Scotland tomorrow against Wales. I'd kind of really like to see them win that game, actually. So we wish them all the well. Although actually, I think we're going to release this on Wednesday, so we'll know the outcome by then. But it's been really nice to have you along.
Nah, thanks very much for having me. And I should end by saying, especially just after Scotland beat England at Twickenham. So thanks very much.
Did you mention the rugby score again? What was it?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Thanks, Cole.